하겠습니다. 이어서 제이슨 자오 스토리 공동대표님께서 강연을 진행해 주시겠습니다. Next speaker is Mr. Jason Zhao, CPO and co-founder of Storyprotocol. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Hey everyone, very thankful to be here, and really great that Imad was able to share a little bit more about the vision of sovereign AI. So today I want to talk a little bit about, number one, something that maybe isn't going to be covered throughout the rest of the day, which is this question of IP. A little bit of background about me. I was the youngest product manager at Google DeepMind. So I joined before ChatGPT came out, before a lot of these interesting innovations in AI had actually been known to the public. And during my time there, what I focused on was actually productionizing AlphaGo, AlphaZero, some of these game-playing agents that were playing StarCraft better than the world's best StarCraft players, that were playing Lee Sedol in Go, and finding ways to take that research, which was very powerful and very exciting, but also extremely abstract, and find ways to turn that research into tangible products. While I was there, I was very fortunate to work on a variety of interesting products, but one thing that really struck me was that no one had an answer to the question of how to monetize AI sustainably in a world where creativity can be taken from creators and remixed by AI without any compensation. So I think this is one of the biggest open questions, and I want to share a little bit more about IP, stories, vision, in shaping the AI landscape for IP. And then, of course, I want to zoom out, and of course, this is about AI, scaling the future of AI, and share my vision for how this can play out in good ways and in bad ways. So before I talk about AI, I also first want to cover what IP is. We throw that word around a lot, IP, and usually we think about movies, we think about songs, we think about BTS, but to us at Story, intellectual property is much bigger than just movies and songs. Especially in the age of AI, IP can be an AI model, and it can be my voice, it can be the way you look, or someone else's unique artistic style. IP is a brand like Nike or Balenciaga. IP are even memes that get shared virally around the internet. And if you look at it from an economic perspective, intellectual property is actually one of the world's largest asset classes. It's a multi-trillion-dollar asset class, and all of us own IP. If you have an Instagram, or if you've posted pictures online, that's your IP, but we don't have access to it. So what Story is trying to do is to turn the internet into an IP Legoland. Now, what does that mean, IP Legos? What is an IP Legoland? For us, right now, if you look at the world, all the content is trapped in static media files. And we want to take IP and make it programmable. What that means is any piece of content that you see on Netflix, on TikTok, or anywhere else will be able to be registered on Story, and you can set the terms for how you can license, remix, and monetize that IP. So the reason why we think that's important is because if you look at the state of IP today, it's filled with inefficiencies. If you're not a very large studio or one of the world's top creators, and you don't have 100 lawyers to do a licensing negotiation, you basically have no access to your own intellectual property. And so what we're trying to do at Story is to reduce the many inefficiencies around intellectual property and replace them with code that's easy as one click. And like I mentioned before, right now, if you think about any piece of content that you see, it's really not designed to flow through the internet. If you see a picture, how do you know who owns it? How do you know if you can use it? How do you know if it's generated by AI? None of these questions are answerable, and as a result, the IP system is highly opaque and highly expensive. If we can actually put the legal system into code, then we can help creators monetize their IP. We can allow developers to build on top of content together. And one important feature of this is that it's not just about a software innovation. We really believe this is also a legal innovation as well. And one thing that we've really focused on at Story is bridging the legal world and the world of code. So every single piece of content, every IP on Story is mapped one-to-one with specific terms from a real legal contract so that you can change the law and manipulate the law in the same way that you can with code. And we want to transform law into code and code into law. So ultimately, what this vision looks like is a world where every single piece of content has a QR code that's readable by other people, a QR code that's readable by AI, a QR code that's readable by developers in the form of an API, allowing people to build applications around content and empowering creators to have sovereign IP. Now, that's a little bit about IP, and what Story is building. But of course, this is a conference where we're here to discuss the future of AI. So for me, I think it's really important to ground this discussion in why any of this matters at all. And at Story, what we think about, the reason why we exist is animated by one simple question. And that question is, why aren't we living in a digital renaissance? Because at face value, if you think about the tools that creators have today, number one, all of us have access to social media. So if you're taking photos from the crowd, or if you've filmed a video, you can share that on social media and reach 10 million people in hours for free. Add on top of that the ability of OpenAI, Sora models, and other world-class leading models like Stable Diffusion. And now we don't just have global distribution, we also have the ability to generate Hollywood-level content with just a few sentences. So everyone in their pocket, on their computer, now has an entire Hollywood studio, and it's accessible and free and cheap to everyone. So everyone and every creator around the world has the ability to reach everyone and to build the best content. And yet, if you look around, if you look at Hollywood, they went on strike for 6 months out of last year. So creators around the world are struggling to monetize, despite having the most powerful technologies we have ever seen. And the question is, of course, why? Why is that the case? And my belief from what I've seen at DeepMind and what I've seen building Story is that AI, the future of AI is not just about scalability. I know that's the theme of this conference, but to me, what's important and the biggest open question that we still have to answer is not about faster, it's not about more powerful, it's not even about cheaper. It's really about this underlying IP monetization question. And I think that's what's preventing us from leveraging these technologies in a positive way. So if you look at the evidence, you're starting to see the cracks at the edges of the current IP system. There are very interesting experiments where people are taking famous singers' voices like Drake's voice and The Weeknd's voice and using that to create a remix, a song that goes viral to #1 on the charts. You're also seeing this outside of music. For example, with Harry Potter, people have remixed Harry Potter videos and put them on YouTube in the style of Balenciaga or in the style of their favorite directors, and these are getting tens of millions of views. So this is a very exciting experiment, but at the same time, if you think about the economics, it's a lose-lose situation. So if you're J.K. Rowling, you're the creator of Harry Potter, and people are using AI to remix your content, you're not getting paid. If you're the fan on the other side of this, and you're a huge fan of Harry Potter, you spent many, many weeks creating this remix in the style of Balenciaga, and you post it on YouTube, you might get sued. You might have a lawsuit. So right now, neither the original creator nor their communities are winning at all. And this isn't just a question that's limited to content and to media. It affects every facet of society. So this is a big problem in journalism. I'm sure you guys have seen this. The New York Times, for example, in the US has sued OpenAI because of the tensions around journalism and in AI and the ability for AI to reproduce some of the text in the New York Times without compensation. So ultimately, I believe that this is the introduction of a new Napster moment, where we have godlike technologies that are extremely powerful and exciting, but we have no idea, as a society and via our technology, about how to handle it and how to harness that technology of AI in a sustainable way. And ultimately, I think if we continue to go down this path, we're going to see what I call a tragedy of the commons. And that's a situation where you have this grassy field. This field is the open internet. All the images, all the videos, all the reviews of restaurants, all the answers on Quora, these are all the grass that constitutes the field. And we have these AI models that are eating this data and spitting out really interesting contents. But the problem is that there's no one planting new seeds. There's no incentives for creators to continue creating their content when AI can just take it and generate it for free. And so just to give you a very concrete example, imagine that I'm a travel blogger, right? And I'm writing about my trip to Seoul. I'm writing about my top 5 favorite Korean barbecue places. 5 years ago, if I were writing this blog, the old social contract of the web was that Google, if I wrote a good enough blog, Google would give me traffic, and then I would be able to monetize on that traffic, maybe run some ads and make $100, $200 a month. And that's not a perfect situation, but it works for a lot of people. Fast forward to today. If I'm writing this blog today about my 5 favorite Korean barbecue places, and someone asks Perplexity or ChatGPT or any of these other models, what are the best places to visit in Seoul? My blog is going to get summarized into a single bullet on that response. So now no one is going to visit my blog because they don't have to. I'm not going to get paid. No one is going to read my content. And as a travel blogger, I'm just going to stop writing. And this isn't just an isolated example I'm giving you. This is going to happen to every single creator on the internet because the logic is the same. Why would I continue putting in the effort that I'm putting in if no one is going to look at my content and no one is going to compensate me for it? So really, we're at this tipping point. If we continue to go down this path, we're going to head towards this world where there's no one planting new seeds in this field, and the open internet, all the things that we love about it, the ability to create and to see other people's content, it's all going to go away. There's no incentive to continue creating. But I think that AI can be an extreme force for good. I mean, I spent so much of my career focusing on AI research. And so the question is, how do we actually shift directions from this current direction that we're on to a more positive direction where AI can enhance creativity? In my opinion, the way that we need to do that is to build an internet-native IP system. And that's what we're thinking about at Story. Instead of the pen and paper legal system where you have to have hundreds of lawyers and it's very expensive, that was invented 500 years ago for the printing press, we're still applying the printing press copyright system to AI and to social media. So our thought at Story is actually blockchains are the foundation for an internet-native IP system. And we want to allow creators to protect their work in the age of AI, to say that, I'm opting out of training. But perhaps more importantly, we want creators to be able to grow their IP. So we often think about IP as defensive. Oh, you can't use my content, don't touch it, don't steal it. But at Story, what we're excited about is the potential for IP to create incentive alignment and to create networks around content. So if I'm a singer, I can put my voice on Story and declare that anyone else can use my voice to use AI to remix my voice as long as they share 50% of the revenues with me. So now I have an army of fans that are creating new songs on my behalf, generating revenue for themselves and for me. And so with this new content system, new IP system, I think we can create bigger and bigger franchises than ever before. And now is the perfect time to be doing this. Because as I mentioned before, all of you, myself, all of you here, now have AI, and all of us are Hollywood creators. So now you have the ability for anyone in the world to create great content. And now with Story, they can access this entire library of IP Legos, all the creativity of the world, and build together. And so what's going to happen is that IPs are going to become networks. And this isn't just a question of we have the technology, right? We have AI, we have blockchain. It's not just about technology. It's also about culture. This demand to create content together has been around for decades. You see the biggest social media platforms today, like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, they're all based on remixing. But that remixing right now is stuck on one platform, a large platform that decides on behalf of these creators what they should earn. And also, surprisingly, today, 3 out of the top 100 websites by traffic are still fan fiction websites. And these are not very pretty looking websites. They are very black and white, very simple design, yet still billions of people visit it every year to create content for free. Imagine what they could do if they had any incentive or they could actually earn money from remixing that content. So our theory at Story is that AI is going to completely shift the landscape of creativity from this top-down content development model where you have a single studio like Disney and a single person in a suit deciding what's going to happen for 10 years to this almost open source model. Like Imad was mentioning with open source AI, we think that we can create open source creativity, but with value capture built in for everyone who contributed along the way. And now just to zoom out, where do we see the world going? I think that what's really important is understanding the landscape of AI. So this is my view. I think right now we're in this bottom left corner. So we're in this world where we have these monolithic, massive AI development companies like OpenAI, like Google, like Adobe, and they capture a lot of value. They're some of the world's most valuable companies, but it's extremely closed. And what they're doing now to get more IP is they're doing these massive licensing deals. So to give you an example, OpenAI has a deal with Reddit for, I think, $10 million a year to train on Reddit's data. My opinion is that this vision of the world is not just uninspiring, but also impossible to sustain. And I'll give you an example. So use the OpenAI and Reddit example. There's 3 participants in this relationship. The first is a Reddit user, so you're a user of Reddit. The second is your Reddit, the platform, Reddit, the company. And then the third is your OpenAI. In this world where OpenAI is paying Reddit $10 million a year for its data, if you're an individual user of Reddit, what's going to happen is that less and less people are going to be using Reddit over time. OpenAI isn't paying $10 million a year for nothing. They're paying $10 million a year to drive traffic away from Reddit and towards OpenAI's user interface. And so what's going to happen is that there's going to be less and less people reading your post, liking your post, being part of your community. And over time, just like with a travel blogger, people will stop using Reddit. So as an individual Redditor, you're not happy because the platform that you like is getting drained. And then if you're Reddit, the company, yes, you're getting paid $10 million a year, but like I said, your users are leaving. And so maybe in the first year, it's a $10 million deal. Maybe in the second year, it's an $8 million deal. Maybe in the third or fourth year, it's just a $5 million deal. And so ultimately, Reddit as a platform itself also dies. It can't sustain itself. And if you're OpenAI, well, you'll be the last to feel the pain, but you will still feel the pain when Reddit goes away because you need that data. You need that IP. You need to continue ingesting more and more content in order to sustain the high-quality models that you've been building. But now all the platforms that you've been using for that content have died out. So we think this is not just about creators. We think this is about the entire landscape of artificial intelligence and the entire business model that needs to change. So right now, as an alternative, you've heard from Imad, who's the founder of Stability, which is one of the world's largest open source companies. I think Meta is also a great example with their Llama models, producing open source models for the world. This is a very good precedent, and I'm very much in support of it. But unfortunately, unless you are Facebook and Meta and you're making $5–10 billion in revenue a year, you can't support the development of open source AI. It's too expensive. You're not making any money. And so we think the only sustainable vision of the world is to go into this top left corner. And the top left corner here is a world where the open internet of IP is open, and creators can set the terms for how others can use their IP. So creators and people who use their IP, like model trainers, can succeed together. If you're a creator, models can train on your data, but then they have to pay you. And so as a model creator, you have a way to get the best content and continue sustaining yourself and continue generating revenue. But also, as a creator, you have the ability to sustain yourself as well. We think that vision is the only win-win situation and the only sustainable business model for AI moving forward with respect to IP. So that's where we're trying to go, and we're not there today. So I just want to wrap up in the last few minutes. I've talked a lot about high level, what's going on with AI, what's going on with IP, and how Story sees the future. I want to bring that down to something more concrete and show you guys some examples of the types of future that we want to build at Story. So I'm going to conclude with a couple examples of ecosystem partners that are using Story today to power their IP and their products. And so we're very lucky to have hundreds of ecosystem partners, but today I'm just going to talk about several. But the idea with Story is that, like I said, the core concept is IP Legos, right? And so the idea is that we have, let me just lay the landscape for you. We have 3 applications, for example, that we work with today. One of them is called Magma. It's a creator tool that has 2.5 million users. And they're all artists that don't know anything about blockchain, right? So we've worked with them. They're using Story. They don't know a single thing about blockchain or that even blockchain is being used. So that's number one. It's a creator tool. And what we've done with Magma and all their 2.5 million artists is that they can register their IP after they finish creating their character or whatever visual art that they've created on Story. And the moment that character gets registered on Story through Magma, this app, it's available to every other app on Story. So you don't have to do any manual work. If you're building another application and you've integrated with Story, if someone creates something new on Magma, that IP pops up in your app instantly. And so to give you an example, there's another application built on Story called Mahojin. Mahojin is an AI remixing tool, and basically it allows people to take images and remix them with AI. So someone could actually find this character that someone else made. So let's say person 1 creates a character on Magma, they register it on Story. Instantly, person 2, the user of Mahojin, can see this character, and then they can create an AI remix of that character. And maybe that it costs $1 to create that AI remix. That Magma artist would get paid. Now, let's say someone's created a remix of the original Magma character on Mahojin. What happens is there's a third app. This one is called Sekai. It's an AI-powered comic app, and so you can actually create AI comics around characters. So the moment the person on Mahojin remixes the AI character, or the character using AI, that AI remix character shows up on Sekai. So a third person who's on Sekai can actually see this character, and if they like it, they can create an entire comic around that character. And that comic, if that comic generates revenue, then the person who remixed the AI character on Mahojin, as well as the original creator on Magma, everyone who contributed along the way will get paid. So this is an example where IP can be created on one app, it can remix and improve on another app, and then it can finally monetize on a third app. And every single person along the way will get paid automatically through Story's Rails. So that's the example I want to show you. And just to make the vision of how programmable IP works more concrete, I think if content on the internet, if every single piece of content that you see on Netflix, on YouTube, on TikTok works this way, then we're going to head towards a much more sustainable future where AI and creativity can work together rather than against each other. So that's a little bit about Story's vision, about how we're building this IP Legoland, and of course about how I see the future of AI using blockchain as the underlying IP technology. Really grateful for you guys for inviting me, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jason Zhao.